listening to the #1 real estate podcast where we talk with real estate agents all across the world about their wins, losses, lessons, stories to help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with my co-host of the Real Estate Growth Academy, Vikram Deol. I hope you're doing well, Vikram. I don't know where you are. You're like, kind of back and
I'm
forth
literally
doing
like
things.
77 feet away from you downstairs.
You are. Yeah.
Well, I'm in the same country as you.
You are in the same country as me. I can kind of a little bit hear the echo of your presence in the other room. It's kind of weird.
I can always hear your echo in the room, even with my door closed and your door closed. I can still hear Cody. He's never quiet. I'm just messing with the lighting here because I don't know what's going on. My computer this morning was like glitching and crashing. I thought Macs, everybody told me buy a Mac, it never crashes. Buy a Mac, it never crashes. And I'm like, I have issues with this thing, just like I had with my PC. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like everybody drinks Kool-Aid out here when it comes to Mac, but no, man, we're in Columbia. I'm super excited to have Cody on. Now I can say
Cody Johnson.
You guys will both respond.
I know. Yes. I'm like Cody who? Cody 1, Cody 2, Cody Johnson. Give us a high level overview on who you are, what you do, why you do it, where you're at in the world, just so that everyone in the audience kind of gets the contextualized understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm Cody Johnson. I'm located in Cedar Falls, Iowa, kind of in the middle of nowhere, according to Vic. Don't think you could find it on a map. But
I couldn't find LA on a map, so don't feel bad.
But I'm a real estate broker of a new kind of startup company. We've been in business for a little bit over a year. I'm starting my 5th year in real estate. I spent my first 3 years at the largest firm in kind of our market, but then kind of decided to go off on my own and try to build something, partnered up with a construction company. And, at first kind of thought there was going to be some things we could do all the time there and kind of develop some growing pains there. But now we're kind of just rocking and rolling, growing ourselves. And then when that day comes to kind of merge ecosystems, then we will. But for now, we're just kind of starting from the ground up with the real estate and just really kind of getting things in order.
Cody's in a city of I think a population of 7.
Basically.
There's one stop sign, one high school. No, I'm kidding. You've done some pretty cool things, man. Like one, you're a young, very ambitious young person, which is really cool. But you have these like really cool ideas and you actually go out and put them in play. Right. You had an idea like, okay, if I can partner with a real estate construction company, maybe that'll bleed over a little bit into my business somehow, or that'll, all bleed over into their business. It hasn't quite panned out, right? Entrepreneurs always think things are going to be a lot easier than they really are. I think that's kind of like the real estate agent's journey is they get in because it's so easy, like the entry level is so easy. And then once you get in, you're like, wait a minute. This is kind of freaking hard. Like talking to people is not as easy. Like, everybody's like, oh, you're so afraid. Like the #1 line I hear from people on prospecting calls is, I got into real estate because everybody says I'm so personable. And I'm like, personality doesn't get a paycheck, does it? They're like, no. Like people love me, but they don't use me. And I'm like, yeah, because there's some skills involved. So why don't you kind of like talk about why I'd like to know the history about why you wanted to marry these two companies together, because they do have similarities, and then what isn't working and what is working, because I think there's a lot of people that want to marry construction with real estate, and maybe you would recommend it, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah. So at first we kind of thought more internally we would be able to do some remodels and some flips and stuff like that, then also offer that as kind of like a, try our best to make it look as HGTV does. But just kind of with, we went through a market shift there and things were kind of fast paced moving and tough to get a full remodel cost on a house like that,
Right.
But then kind of just where they went with their business and now they're focusing on certain projects. And so it's just a little tough to kind of line up perfectly, but kind of what we have done, and like had some clients that they came in looking for a new build house, kind of, decided that wasn't the best fit for them, but now they're my client and served them well. And had a couple that I've sold them a house or sold their house, and now they have a project that they want to do. And well, here you go. They rock this type of project. The thing that I think that really is unique for us and sets us apart is kind of like, our like purpose is, we think your future matters. And no matter what, like whether you use us or use them, whatever, like we want what's best for you. We want to show you the options and like just being transparent with you, because, I don't want to go sell a house, especially how we did past like 2.5 years, where it's like, oh, you can buy it $100,000 over asking price, but if you want to move in 5 years, might not be the best option for you. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to put you in that situation. So, I'm going to do everything I can to put you in the best situation possible. And I think that just kind of reflects, and, our clients will definitely attest to that, which is, I think, our number one goal.
What I heard you say was, even though the businesses haven't aligned the way that you guys planned them out, the fact that you can say, hey, you want to build a house, go talk to these guys. And they can say, hey, you want to build a house, before you do that, go talk to this guy. Because building a house and remodeling a bathroom's insane. Leave alone building a whole house. Like, if you've never done that. So having those options for clients all under one roof gives the client the option of making a decision. Is that like that actually helps you serve them at a higher level? Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, even if they're walking through a project that they are already dead set on, and it's kind of, changes midpoint, and they're like, oh, what do we do now? Well, we've got another option for you. So that's definitely nice, and just kind of assures them and their decisions on what they actually want to do.
And then the second question that I want to bring up is, you said somebody asked me a question yesterday. They're like, oh, you're only focused on one business right now? And I'm like, yeah, if it's not making
how it works,
10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million, why would I go anywhere else? I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, until this one is crushing it the way that I want it to crush it, why would I go other places? And you said something similar. You're like, we're now just focusing in on the real estate, or I'm focusing in on the real estate.
Yeah.
When did that paradigm shift really happen for you? And what has been the cause of that focus?
I'd say it kind of just almost kind of naturally happened. I mean, over the past 5 years, their company's just been exponentially growing, which is great. And with that, so they're also partners with the real estate too, but their time gets busy. So it's really hard just to get everybody in one room all the time, and
totally,
not having the real estate experience, which I have, and kind of that side of things. It's, kind of more just vertical growth, and then we'll refer and help each other when we can. I mean, lots of just like, general business talk to kind of bouncing those off ideas rather than specific problems that only one of us would know. So that's always been nice, but kind of just naturally happened, and I think it's been for the better.
I love that. I love the singular focus. I think that, both Vikram and I can, echo that sentiment. Like you said, Vic, like around really putting your focus into one thing in order to see the results you're looking for before you try to go and do something else. Like we've heard so many entrepreneurs talk, successful entrepreneurs talk about, like, people mistake how successful entrepreneurs made their money for how they actually invest it. And they get mixed up in this idea of like passive income, and they get mixed up in this idea of like, okay, I need to have 7 streams of income. It's like, well, yeah, like, but like your main business needs to actually perform, and it needs to work. Talking about what's working right now in the marketplace, like in your market, like I chat with real estate agents all across North America, and they're like, my market's so different. And like, and that's part of the reason why I'm really on a mission more than anything to talk with as many real estate agents about what's working in your market right now for client acquisition, for getting buyers and sellers over the finish line, in order to really help them understand that, like, the market, while markets might be different, they're very, very similar, and there's key principles and tactics that you can apply to really any market you're in. So I'm curious to know, like, what do you think is the singular focus of the thing that you're working on that's driving the most amount of revenue or the most amount of results right now into your business?
I would say at first we had a lot of just like kind of, the colder leads, startup company, nobody knows you. But kind of taking those and making the most of them so that now we are getting a couple referrals and stuff like that. But then also some of those leads aren't ready quite yet either. Where with, I don't know how every other market is, but ours is lower price point for one, definitely. And also we're seeing pretty low inventory, like some even down to like half a month. So,
Oh, wow.
only, maybe only 3 or 4 houses in a certain $50,000 price range. So it's like, if that's not a fit, you might have to wait until a week, 2 weeks to even have another possibility come out. So just kind of really staying in touch with those people and nurturing them. Like, I think I probably had around 5 sales, pretty rough number, but are just leads I've worked with for over 6 months, some close to 2 years even. It's just really nurturing them, letting them know that you're there for them, asking them, what else can I do for you? Do you have any other questions? And just how's life kind of thing. I mean, a real personal level there, but I think that really stands out, and it really helps you kind of communicate and have the harder conversations about the business decision of the house.
That I remember you posted something like 3 or 4 months ago in our Growth Academy chat, and you're like, oh, I reached out to somebody from like 7 months ago, and they're under contract now after like 2 weeks. And what a lot of agents don't do well, I think, is one of your strengths, is they are so unorganized and chasing shiny pennies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that there's 2 problems that real estate agents have, salespeople in general, but real estate agents, because they don't consider them salespeople, have it even more, is they're not organized, right? Like they don't know what a CRM is. They don't even know what it stands for. They're not organized, and they don't know what to say when they have, like, I don't really like the word follow-up. I kind of think it's a stupid name, because the follow-up calls are like this, like, hey, I'm just following up with you. And they're like, cool, keep following up. Right.
Yeah.
But if you nurture, but if you're nurturing somebody, right, like nurturing means like, you're enriching them, you're exposing them, you're making their life better, you're adding value to them. And so maybe I think a question that I would have, and I don't know if this was down the line you're going, Cody, is when you have these conversations, and I know we talk about this in the Growth Academy a lot, but when you have a conversation with somebody, let's say you haven't talked to in 6 months, right? So they were a February, March lead when the market was really on fire still, and now the market's completely different. What does that kind of conversation look like with you?
So I always kind of make a note in my CRM of like what we last talked about, or you'll see if, you made a connection on your last, time reaching out, because there might be 5 or 6 calls or texts that never got answered. People are busy. But yeah, really just the messaging and, kind of trying to remember what they last said, or, just like Cody May was on a call with us, probably 2-3 weeks ago, where it kind of really resonated and helped me step up my game of, he said, finding a different entry point and a different message to get that through. And it's like, instead of just calls and emails and text, it's like, what else can you do? Like sending them stuff, kind of just really all facets there. But I think just kind of the messaging and being more warmer and having an intention than just, following up, because I'll admit I was a victim to that for my first probably 2.5 years in the business.
Totally.
Nobody teaches you those things, but
it's funny, because like a lot of this stuff gets transferred down, and that's part of the reason why we started the podcast, because so like a lot of like it seems so basic, this information, but like it's not, like, like I think it's Brendan Burchard who says, common sense is always isn't always common practice. And I think that it's very interesting in the real estate space. Like I come back to this, like we say a lot of these things like, well, they don't work in my market, where it's like, well, if you're just intentional and like you care about people and you find different ways to, find those entry points, people feel like you actually care, because if you actually give a damn.
Why don't you unpack what entry point means? Because I don't know that people understand that, because they weren't obviously in your class.
They weren't on the call.
What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so we teach a system called the perfect follow-up structure, and a lot of people talk about, you know, speed to lead, and obviously that's an element, but the other element that we talk about is speed to process. Like, what does your process look like in order to get people, you know, to actually respond to you? You know, there's frequency. Like, for the most part, we know that if you follow up more than 7 times, yeah, if you follow up more than 7 times, you can increase your contact rate by 70%.
Right.
But the important thing is the intention. Like, you know, we chatted about last week was this idea that going in with checking in or following up isn't intentional. It's not like, use the tools in a way, like it could be like a Loom video. Like, if you have a note in your phone or a note in your CRM that they're specifically looking for, you know, a specific school zone, you can record a Loom video showing a property that has that specific thing, and then send that to them and follow up, where it's like, hey, I just found, you know, 123 Banana Street. 123 Banana Street actually is really, really close to the school that you're looking for. I know that you mentioned that was important 3 months ago. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew about this, and would mornings or afternoons work better in order to go see the property, see if it's the right fit for you and your family. That's more intentional, and that literally takes 2 minutes. It almost takes the same amount of time that you would spend spend writing up an email saying, hey, just checking in. The intention is absolutely everything. It's something that I think that you know, like you, Cody, and me as well, early on in my career, I would always just be like, you know, because I'm a persistent follow-up person. So I'll just be like, check it in. And it just it just doesn't check it in, and it just doesn't work. Like, people see right through that. They're like, this person wants my money. You know, it's like, if you could shift the focus and the frame towards like actually being intentional with your follow-up and providing value. It could be even a tool that you created specifically for them. Hey, I just launched this 3-step guide on how to win in today's local market. It talks about the rates, talks about the inventory, it talks about you know, something else that you throw in there. That can be super, super valuable for any real estate agent that is looking to actually re-engage a conversation with somebody. But, you know, what I'm really curious about, Cody, is kind of your team dynamic. And I want to shift gears here, because I'm really curious to know what do you feel like is working, and what do you feel like is not working from a team dynamic right now? We've chatted with tons of real estate teams across the nation. I would love to know, like, how does the team operate? Like, what does it look like? And then I want to dive a little bit deeper into kind of like how you're driving camaraderie, and how you're driving like even driving sales in your local market with the team.
So our team is incredibly lean. Like, it's me as the broker. I've got 1 agent, 1 marketing guy that we share with the construction company, and then also the other bubble I would have would be the other owners. But it's, at first, what wasn't working was everybody trying to get into one meeting, and you know, we'd have conversations outside of it with like trying to relay all those to everybody, but then also like find a path to go on. So now it's, as of probably the last couple of weeks here, which has been super nice, is I meet with my agent about sales stuff and maybe a little bit of marketing stuff, just what he feels would work. Then I meet with my marketing guy. We knock out everything, get a roadmap going. Meet with owners. That's more business activity. And I mean, it's, along with the startup, there's a lot of time on my plate. So it's like I just added 6 hours of meetings to my week every week, but it saves me 10 hours of just trying to brainstorm and, oh, how can I get this message across to everybody? You know, it's a lot less stress. It's just more focus there. So that's working. But
how are the meetings run? Like, can you walk us through a little bit quickly? Like, because it sounds like what you were doing before wasn't working. Like, how are you running what you feel to be effective meetings right now? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So at first it was, you know, we'd do like a 60 to 90-minute meeting where you have an agenda, it's set, and it's like, you know, we hit all these checkpoints, but then we kind of keep circling back week to week. Where now it's every week there's still kind of an agenda, a little bit more loose. It's just, let's do a time frame. What do we want to knock out? And just kind of get it done. It's more relaxed, I'd say. And just kind of more focused on individual problems rather than try to get 10 problems at once solved. But
Okay. That's awesome.
It's intention. It's intention, right? You
Mhm.
know, like when I talk to Sharon, and Sharon's like, all right, Vic, what do you want to talk about? When I first started talking to Sharon in 2018, it would be like 1,000 things. So he'd be like, every time we talk, we would need a whiteboard. And I would have to brain dump with him, right? Because that's how I needed to let out a lot of things. But now when we talk, it's like, okay, I need to work on marketing, or I need to work on the top of funnel. I need to work on this, right? It's one specific thing. And that's where a really good meeting comes in, is that you work on one specific thing. And if there's time left over, you either give the time back to each other where you can go start implementing it, or you can work on the start of a second challenge. But where I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle in the beginning is we have this notion that we're capable of doing far more than we really are.
Yeah.
And like what, you know, Cody May and I, what we learned with like Talkie More is Talkie runs this thing called the 6-week whatever
Cycle.
6-week cycle. And you're only allowed to pick 1 or 2 projects to work on in that 6 weeks. Because if you try to pick 5, you don't do any, because it's just so overwhelming. So if you pick 1 per meeting, it sounds like that's where you guys are at. Like, let's just tackle one thing. And if you do a weekly meeting, 2 weeks off for the year, that's 50 things that you guys are knocking out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
That's awesome, because that's kind of exactly what we're doing. We have these, you know, big quarterly goals that we call rocks, and we have usually about 5 to 7 of those. So we take those rocks and I put it through the rock crusher, and we have to-dos. We have like a million to-dos for all these things, but each week we're working on this one. Me and you were working on this one. Me and you were working on this one. And, you know, we're still working on 6 different things each week, but now we know when it's ready to review, when we're ready to throw in another one, and just a lot more gets done that way.
Are you following the book Traction? EOS?
EOS framework. Yeah. As soon as you said rocks, I'm like, I knew exactly it was Gino Wickman. That was a revolutionary book. Like, I would say anyone that is looking to build a team, or even if you're trying to run yourself, you know, as a single agent, Traction by Gino Wickman will give you so much structure in your meetings, so much clarity. The other book that I highly recommend everyone read is Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, because I found what that did is that took what Traction had, and then it created the 10-year vision for what you wanted your company to look like. So those 2 books together are just like monumental. So Cody, what do you think right now real estate agents should be doing that they're not doing? Because obviously you connect with a ton of real estate agents, you connect with a ton of buyers and sellers. What are you seeing in the marketplace, like as you talk to more realtors, that like you're like, if they were to just do this one thing, especially if they're new in the business, they're just do this one thing, because we're talking a lot about one thing today. They do this one thing that would create the most leverage in their business, that has been the biggest, I think, catalyst for you and your growth.
I would say just really getting good at talking to people. When I first got into real estate back in 2018, I was the shy guy and wouldn't talk unless I was spoken to, kind of thing. So like you'd see everybody, it's a pretty small town. I think between the 2 cities, it's maybe 100,000 people. But just, you know, when you get out and see somebody in public, just making it an intent to go up and talk to them, because even though it's not a, you know, real estate intent, it opens that conversation. And like, I mean, I've gotten a client from having my car break down. Now I'm talking to the guy who owns the car dealership. It's like, how do you go from that to that? It's like worst thing ever, sitting on the side of the road, to now talking to this guy, right? But just really getting out, talking to people, because then they'll talk to their friends and everything like that, and they'll see what you post online. That's probably the other thing, is just your messaging online, because you can post 100 different things a day, but if it's just a, oh, hey, look at me, I sell houses kind of thing, then I've already seen 200 of those from the other agents. Like, who gives a shit?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Where are you at online right now? I mean,
Probably I'm mostly just on Facebook right now and
Okay.
a little bit of Google, but need to do more. But with the limited resources, it's a little tough. But we're actually just kind of now niching down and kind of narrowing down our target market also, which has been super helpful. So that way we know what our messaging is, because if we don't know it, the client's not going to know it.
Totally.
So just really focusing down on that.
It's so powerful, right? It's so powerful. And this is one of the things that people don't realize. And it's because it's a fear-based, it's a scarcity-based mindset.
Yeah.
Is that if we go into a smaller market and we already are not having the business that we want, if we go to a smaller market, we're going to have even less opportunities. If we have less opportunities, then what are we going to do? So I love the fact that you've come from this huge, like, we're going to do construction and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, to like really niching yourself down. And then the other thing that I really love is, how am I finding new people to put into my database every day?
Totally.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's super powerful. I love jamming with you, man, every week. It's always, you always bring a smile to the call. Like whenever we get to see you, you have a really solid energy around you, and one of the things that I admire is that you're super young, but you're super organized. You're super ambitious. You know exactly what you want. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a round robin to get there. So I'm just, I just love having you out in the group, and I love seeing you go out there and crush it in your marketplace. If somebody were trying to get a hold of you, whether it be another agent who wants to refer business to you, or somebody who hears this podcast and they want to potentially get on your team, or a client, where would they find you?
Can call me. I've always got my phone on me. Call me, text me, Facebook.
You can call me on my cell phone.
Email.
Where would they find you online? So if they were to go to Facebook, where would they find you?
Just be Facebook, Cody Johnson, or you could message the company, Team Real Estate Group. Same thing on Google. I'm sure you can find me on there. Cell phones. You won't want me to list my cell phone number.
I mean, if you put it out there, you might get calls. You might get some feet pick. I don't know what these people send out these days. Well,
can't be any worse than anything else. But yep. So it's 319-240. It's 319-240-7918. And that's my direct number. So smaller text always works.
Ladies, he is married.
Ladies, you got the direct. Yeah. Okay. Well,
ladies, he is married. I know he's studly, and he's actually doing the podcast from the gym. But dude, I just love seeing you grow, man. I love watching your progression. I appreciate you so much. And I'm not going to put words in Cody number 2's mouth, but we look forward to, we appreciate your time this morning. And I know you're busy with multiple businesses and everything else. And I just, what I like about you is that I think there's a lot of people who think they come from a limited perspective of, well, I'm too old to start, or I'm too young to start, or I'm too this, or I'm too that, or I'm too this. And you could have made all the same excuses, but you didn't. And you partnered with other people who are older than you. You have clients that are older than you, clients that are younger than you. Now you have clients that are, uberly successful, and it doesn't matter the age, you can do it. So you guys, if you're looking for Cody Johnson, you now have Mr. Johnson's private digits.
Lucky you. Cody, thank you so much. And thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast, the #1 real estate podcast in the world. We'll see you soon.